that I don't forget, because I've done that, I've like gone through the whole class and realized I was supposed to record it.
Adria, I have a request. I have to leave probably a couple minutes early, or at least exactly at 12. I have to do something. Anyway, can we discuss varnishes before I leave? Or
Of
should we
course.
do it, or should we do it another time?
Well, we can do it all. I mean, we can do that,
Okay.
or we can do next week. So yeah,
Oh,
before
we
we
have
get
next
started.
week too.
Yeah,
Oh,
next week too.
Let's do it
Next
next
is
week.
our-
That's fine. I
Okay,
forgot we
well,
had another
yeah.
class.
Let's see how we go. But hi everybody, and I just wanted to welcome you to our 5th class. We have one more to go, and I have some thoughts about what next week might entail. But I would love to get your feedback too. But today, what I thought we would do is address some of the more specific questions you've had. And Prilla was curious about transparency, and Phyllis wanted to talk about varnishes, and other people had specific questions about things. So I've made a couple of short videos, to try to address those a little bit more in detail. I find that when I'm doing a video, I'm able to get much more into it than I do in class, just because of that. It's just hard, as you can imagine, hard to have all this wet stuff around with a computer, and I find I'm not really able to get to show you as much as I want to. So anyway, we'll do that. And then for next week, what I thought, I'd love to hear from you, but one of the things I thought we might do that might be helpful for everybody is to do some painting in class. But that might involve, let's see what you think. I mean, what I thought was that we could do something, but it might involve having to purchase a couple more things, and I don't know if you want to do that. Like we could do a whole, acrylic and caustic painting set, but you need more matte medium than you have, but that's something like that. So, I'm wondering just really quickly before class starts, do you have some, some thoughts about specific things that you'd like to do? What sounds like a good thing? Because we've actually at this point, we will have covered pretty much everything except for a few, kind of esoteric things, but I want to make sure to address your specific questions. Yeah, Phyllis, yeah?
If we're painting, which is fine, could we discuss isolation coat and varnish?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of varnish.
Actually I could do them. I have a lot of matte medium, it just turns out. So
okay, great. All right, well,
caustic is fine if people want to do that.
Yeah.
But if people don't, people might want to, I just want to know about when to use the isolation coat.
Yeah.
And then adding varnishes, timing in between and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay, so that's a great one. Anybody else? What other thoughts do you have?
I'd be interested in exploring the paint skins a little more, because I did try them a little bit, and they're very different from working with paper.
Oh yeah.
And I found they sort of started like wrinkling up, and so I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I'm not sure how much I'm going to do that, but I am curious about it.
Okay.
Applying it.
Sure. Hi, Robin. Yes, so that's another thing. So hi, welcome, Robin.
Hi, sorry, Mike.
And before we get into it in a deep way, I wanted to get some ideas for next week's class as our last class, as a way to kind of tie everything together by addressing, more of your specific questions and possibly, leading everybody through a particular technique. But let's just hear, if you have some ideas, I would love to have them and then, arrange the class around that.
And what are we doing today? I'm not sure.
So today, we're also going to wrap up, some of the questions you all
Are
had.
you going to go over printing again?
Well, I can.
Not if people
I
aren't
hadn't planned to
interested.
do it today, but that's something that we could do.
No, that's okay. I mean, it depends on what people want. I can talk to you.
So today, what I have is a detailed video about the difference between GAC 100 and clear tar gel. And also, I feel like I didn't really do clear tar gel justice, because my own one from my little container that I had, as you can see, was kind of dried out, and it wasn't really doing that tar gel thing. So I wanted to show you that it actually does work. So I have that. I also have addressed transparency and how to achieve transparencies with your paints, and how to achieve opacity. a little bit more detail, and we could talk about that as well. I find that that is one of the key things that people
That's good.
are,
Yeah,
tend to be
that's-
confused about. I mean,
yeah.
everybody has these questions. It's always a question. We can go back over color and pigment too. That could be of interest. And also, gosh, what else did I do?
You wanted to talk about those
Oh yeah,
absorb.
and today we're going to do UPO. Thank you, Judy. UPO and Duralar and some of the other painting surfaces that we haven't tried, which are really interesting, super interesting to do. And also this process of, yes, diluting high flow and, seeing what happens when you let the paint, sort of use the water as a vehicle where it sort of, this is a technique that I've done in my own work. I can show you that and also show you this video about how to work with that, which is very, very cool. And this is, again, a very experimental way of using the acrylics. Anybody else? What other? Well, you guys can think about it and email me if you think about it during the week or whatever, or even during class if something comes up that you're very curious about. But I was just saying that if we could certainly do something like the acrylic encaustic technique in class together, starting with sort of a collage on a small board, but we need more matte mediums. So some of these things you may need to purchase a little bit more of that stuff. So, we can do that, or we can just keep going with what we have. So again, I don't want to put anybody in the spot, but just think about it. I'm happy to address any of these specific issues. Judy? Hi.
I'd actually still like to know more about painting aluminum, painting wood,
Ah,
just to work it in terms of sculpture. So that's just as an interest of mine.
Sure. Okay. Well, we may have time to address that today too. So yeah, okay. Let me write that down. All right, good. And please, if I forget to address something and you say, hey, what about, just let me know. These kinds of classes tend to get, we get down the rabbit hole of some of these pieces. Okay, so let's begin. As I mentioned, I'm recording this because a couple people couldn't make it and some people have to leave early, so you'll have it. Let me start, I think today by talking a little bit about the transparency issue, because I know that was something that Perla had mentioned, and it is, as I said, something that comes up. So let me share the screen with you and show you this video, and then we can take it from there if you have other questions. And Perla, you were curious about getting a look that with very little brushstroke in it, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that to begin with, the surface really does have an impact on what the paint strokes look like. And just to demonstrate that here, these are the finished ones. You'll see these in the video more, but just to show you. So this is the finished one, the one that is in my video, but just to show you, this is Reeves BFK painting paper. It's a heavy cotton, stock, 100% cotton, very absorbent. And can you see that pretty well? Doesn't look like it's that great to me, but it's the lighting here.
It's BFK, did you say?
Yeah, this is BFK. And so it's very absorbent. And I think, Prilla, if you look at this, you really don't see the brush strokes at all. Whereas when I did the same thing on this mat board, you do, even though while I was painting it, it really seemed pretty smooth. As you can see now, this really does have the brush stroke showing.
mm-hmm.
And so what I've done here is, this is water mixed with my paint. This is clear tar gel mixed with my paint. And this is the GAC 100, which is just a sort of all-purpose, fluid medium mixed with my paint. So, clear tar gel was the worst in terms of showing brush strokes. So you probably want to stay away from that. And also anything a little heavier is probably not what you want. You want it very thin, but really the water is the best. You know, so there you go. So the surfaces are different, really. This is just, you know, a little heavier, probably not as, obviously not as absorbent as the 100% cotton paper. So, you know, there's a big difference there. Okay, so let me show you this video and let's see, you know, if there are other questions that come up. And optimize this. Okay, so we're going to start with this clear tar gel and versus 100%. I want to talk about the difference between two very similar polymer emulsions. One is called GAC 100. GAC stands for Golden Acrylic Colors. And this is a primer, an extender. It's a medium that you can, sort of an all-purpose medium that you can use to extend your paints. Just as it's a glossy medium. It's very, very similar to so many of the other ones. It was designed originally to be the basis for gesso, to put down before you put your gesso down, to seal a surface. Right now, we're really saying that the clear leveling gel is, or rather the clear regular gel gloss is the better one to do for that purpose, to prevent that surface-induced discoloration that I talked about earlier. But anyway, I wanted to just show you the difference between this and the clear tar gel, which we've talked about in class. And I wanted to do a better demonstration for you with the clear tar gel, because the one I showed you earlier was old and it was not flowing the way it should. So I wanted to do better by clear tar gel. But let's pour them both out. As you can see, they're both white. You know, that's the characteristic of all acrylic emulsions. They are white when they're wet. They dry either glossy and clear or translucent and matte. So I'm going to pour a little bit of this GAC 100 into a cup like that. And I'm going to pour a little bit of the clear tar gel into a cup. And you can see the clear tar gel is much stringier when you pour it. I'll do that again to show you the clear tar, the GAC 100 does not not stringy. It looks like milk, right? That's a big difference. And this is stringy, and that is what you see as being the big difference with these two things. So they'll both extend your colors. They both dry glossy. They both extend. Did I say that already? Extend your colors, make more paint. They're both thin, so that they're the sort of the fluid viscosity of your paints. And when you mix this with your heavy bodies, you'll make a more fluid body paint quality. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like. So I think what I'm going to do is first mix that with a paint color, and then you can see how that looks. So, well, I'm just going to use some open ultramarine. It's actually fine, to use this open color with both of these things. What will happen is if you have an open paint that has a longer drying time, when you mix it with something that does not have that longer drying time, it dries a little bit more quickly. So it's no biggie. That's why these paints are so versatile. You really don't have to be too concerned about mixing things with each other. So just going to bring over a brush here and show you what happens when you mix a little bit of the GAC 100, with this paint. So I'm just going to get a little drab of that. And as you can see, you can make it transparent. It takes your paint a lot further. It really makes it behave more like a glaze. So a glaze, would simply be a color that has a lot of medium mixed into it. So, and then you could do the same thing with our clear tar gel. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of the clear tar gel out, and slowly. Let me do this. Let me pour a little bit out here, and there you go. Okay, so we've got a little bit of the clear tar gel out like this, and I'm going to mix a little bit of my paint with a clear tar gel. And, you know, it feels different. I mean, it's definitely a different viscosity, but it really does do this, you know, very, very similar thing. You know, you might like the feel of this little thicker viscosity, you know, as opposed to the GAC 100, but you know, the end result is very similar. So you can certainly, you know, play with these and see what you like, but they really do similar things. So there's that. But then what I'd like to do is to put a little bit of color into our clear tar gel and dribble it on this piece so you can really see the difference, and you can really see very clearly what clear tar gel is really good at. Remember, I had said that clear tar gel was what they used to simulate the look of enamel paints in the movie about Jackson Pollock a couple of years ago. A bunch of years, 20 years ago, actually. All right, so what we're going to do now is take, oh, well, I'm going to use the same color. Or no, yeah, here, let's do this. Let me mix a little bit of this fluid viscosity, heavy, high flow viscosity, naphthalene red, which is a beautiful color, naphthalene red light. Remember, we want to shake this up so that you hear the little ball inside of it. So it's just mixing the pigment into the medium. So because it's the pigment is heavier than the medium, it tends to fall to the bottom. And I'm just going to put a couple drops in there. I don't really need a lot. Remember how much pigment these paints have. And I'm just going to mix this in there. I'm going to mix this together. And I'm going to add a little bit more to that. It looks like it's still a little thick.
Adria, if it's not pouring really,
Or rather, a little light. It was a light color. And then, go ahead.
if it's not pouring like a dribble,
Yeah.
can we add water to the tar gel?
Well, you can try. You can try. It'll change it. You know, if you want that's dribble, the real, you know, look of that, which I'm going to show you in a second on this video, then you don't want to add. You don't want to add. You just want to make sure that your tar gel hasn't been sitting around for years. Yeah. Now what we're going to do is dribble this on to my piece of cardboard here. Yeah, it's moving pretty slowly, but that's actually a good thing. So we can dribble this, and remember, you know, where it actually pours down is where, oh, there we go. Now we've got a nice dribble going. Is where it's going to stay. This medium does not self-level. In other words, it stays where you put it. Very conveniently, it will not become a big puddle of medium the way GAC would 100 would if you poured that down on your piece of cardboard or whatever you're using. So that's the big difference. That's the clear tar gel. It does these drips. Should you want an effect in your paint where you have this kind of drippy look, you know, look to it that you want it to stay this way, then you know the clear tar gel is the only medium that you have access to here. The golden paints that will do that for you. Okay, questions about that so far?
Now, you said, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distracted here.
Yeah, no worries.
Does the GAC 100 creates transparency in the pigment that you mixed with it? So if you already had, let's say, some acrylic on your surface, canvas or whatever, and then you let it dry and then you painted over it, does that mean that you'd see some of the color underneath?
Yes,
Yes.
a lot of the color, depending on how much, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Right, it's like adding water, but in the second video that I'm going to show you, you'll see what happens with water. It's just a different look to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see. I think Phyllis is first and then Prilla. Phyllis, yeah.
Oh, it's just, Prilla can go first.
Oh, Prilla, yeah. Go ahead.
So both GAC 100 and clear tar gel are glossy.
Yes.
Is there anything that you can use that's matte?
Well, you could use fluid matte medium for sure.
Yeah.
Do the same thing. Yep. Yep. And it will do that too. Extend your paint. Absolutely. And that, that might be another thing for you to try, Prilla. So I did just use the glossy and it's, yeah, very possible.
That's what I've used before, fluid
Great.
matte medium, but
Yeah.
it seems very milky. And
Well,
maybe,
it will,
maybe that's because I've been using fluid acrylic colors, which probably have some opacity in them because they're paler. Some of them are paler colors, so they've got to have some opacity in them, right?
no, not necessarily.
Oh,
Not necessarily. You said you were using the acrylic inks.
yeah. I don't have to continue using the acrylic inks, but
Yeah.
that was what I was having trouble with,
Right.
getting it thin and smooth.
Yep. Well, I don't know. I mean, acrylic inks are really basically what Golden calls high flow. It's similar, very similar, because it's just very low viscosity. And I don't know without seeing them whether they have white in them. But if they have white, then you know that they will not be naturally transparent. Though you can extend opaque paint with your mediums as well. I just think it's a process of trial and error.
Right.
But
okay.
you're on your right track. I think thinning your paint out with medium or water is the thing that's going to give you more transparency. Absolutely. And yeah, the matte, remember the matte medium is simply the same medium, this glossy medium that's got matting, what do you want to,
Properties.
yeah, something in it that makes it matte, which is, it's usually like really like sort of powdery stuff,
Yeah.
It's chalk.
But wait a
Yeah.
minute, so you can, I was next. You can use any medium, any other flowy medium to make transparencies? You don't have,
Yes, there's so many. I mean, someone had talked about acrylic glazing liquid. I have that up here. They're so similar.
but it could be matte medium, it could be gloss medium, just
Yeah, so
using
the
it.
gloss will leave you with a glossy look. The matte, will not. And actually, that's a really good question. I should have brought.
And I had a question for Prilla too.
Yeah, I'll do one. I'll do one for next week with a matte medium. But yeah, it's just a matter. So what I think is happening here, this is the glossy medium. They may be setting up a little bit more thickly. I don't know. Well, yeah.
The color isn't as deep. The color
No,
isn't
the
as
color
deep.
has to do with how much paint I added.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it has
Okay.
nothing to do with the mediums you use. No. It's all about how much paint you use.
My question to Prilla is what acrylic inks were you using?
I was using FW.
For prints or for
No,
painting?
this is for work on, this is work on paper, mixed media work on paper.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I think that it's probably very similar, Prilla. And see if you can find on the label if they have any white added to it. They should tell you what's in it. Maybe
No,
they'll
I
tell
don't.
you. Anyway,
Another question about the glazing medium.
Yeah.
When I was using that a few years ago for
Mhm.
transparencies and doing layer on top of layer, I found that they didn't dry.
Acrylic glazing liquid does extend the drying time a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. But otherwise, it's exactly like all the other mediums in that, the more medium you use, the more transparent look you've got to your paint.
Okay.
Robin, did you?
Go ahead, Robin.
Okay, so in my collages, I've been using sometimes what is it called? Charbonnel Aqua Wash to do, I've been using these, what are they called? You know, I forget what this surface, to make a relief print.
Uh-huh.
So if I put the fluid matte medium on top, which I've done, is that going to crack at any point, or that's because this is, it says the Charbonnel is an oil emulsion,
Hmm.
but it's water. You clean it up with water.
I think it'd be fine.
I mean, I've been doing it and it seems fine, but I figured since you're here.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't, so you're talking about putting a golden fluid medium mixed in with it? Is that what you, is
Well,
that,
I use it on top, you know, I use it on top. I'll make a relief print, put it on the board, and then
Oh.
I'll put the stuff on top. And I just want to make sure at some point it's not going to crack or,
I don't
you
think
know,
so.
just the whole
No,
chemistry
I
of
mean,
everything.
well, golden won't, you know, none of their products will crack except for crackle paste. And
Okay.
that's generally true, you know. The stiffer the material, like the more chalk it has, like if you've ever noticed, you know, if you've ever sort of spilled too much gesso on a board, you know, that it is a little bit, it could crack a little bit, but that's the only time I've ever seen it really super build up. Yeah, I think you're fine. Okay, Terry, did you have a question?
Yeah, this probably is very fundamental that I should know. These these mediums that we're using right now are supposed to give the paint transparency,
Yep.
which is not the same thing as using a paste,
Right.
which changes the value, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
So,
the texture.
yeah, I mean, the blues that you had on your little sample sheet that you were showing us, it looked like they were getting whiter to me, but maybe that's just not the video is that great.
Yeah, exactly. The lighting was a little off there, but no,
Okay.
right. Yeah, it doesn't change the color. Yeah, it just makes it more transparent. Exactly. Anybody else before we go on to our next recording here? Oh, okay, so let me show you this other one about adding water, which is, you know, related. So let me just find that.
Is that also dealing with transparency?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So this should be it. I'm going to talk a little bit about transparency and also this really interesting thing that you can do with these, especially high flow colors. You can also do it with the fluid, but the high flow especially really work well with this, where the pigment just sort of floats on a stream of water, and you can create some wonderfully interesting shapes and also have color transparencies. So this is a dry one I did a while ago, and I think that this video will be a little bit about what we wanted to try in class today, and also about adding water, you know, to create transparency. So just so you know, I'm using BFK paper. It's this really beautiful 100% cotton printmaking paper, drawing paper, painting paper. I really like it. And what happens is the acrylic absorbs into the surface and creates this really velvety, beautiful texture. And what also happens is that, as you can see, the pigment, when floating around in the water, you know, distributes in really interesting ways. Like it seems to pile up right along the edges and sort of fan out in different places. And all these different pigments do different things. So I thought I would just show you how I do this. So I'm going to have a little pipette, a little medical pipette, which really comes in handy for this, but you could really, you know, just use a brush or whatever. But the idea is to get some water sort of sitting on a, you know, kind of beating up on your piece of paper. Do you see how it beats up like that? And then what I'm going to do is take one of my colors. I'm going to use Naphthalene Red Light. Remember, these high flows, you definitely want to shake them up until you can hear the little ball in there moving around. It's just mixing the pigment up really well with the medium that's in there. All right, so I'm gonna just, what I'm gonna do is drop a little bit of the high flow paint onto this little tiny puddle of water that I've made here. I'm just trying to get this open so that it comes out really nicely. All right, I think that's all right now. Okay, so here we go. Watch what's going to happen here. The pigment is going to change the water tension. There we go. And it's going to start to try to get those two together. Come on, come on. There we go. Just by picking it up and moving it around here on your piece of paper, you can make some very interesting shapes. And of course, since the color below is dry, you're not going to get intermixing. You're not going to get a color that you didn't anticipate. So this is really fun. I think what I'd like to do is put a little bit more on here. It's kind of a skinny shape, so I'm going to just make that a bit bigger and extend it a bit more. But that water really stays on the surface there. It's interesting. This color doesn't do as many interesting things with this, with the pigment rather. It doesn't sort of do what I was, sometimes you see more clearly right away the way the color sort of, the pigment rather sort of gathers in places. And this is what you'd be using your little straw for. You could sort of gently blow it, or move it around a little bit. You can even spray the water, make some really interesting shapes like that. But that water tension really is funny how it just stays on the surface of this piece of paper. So you're gonna can pull it out. But this is really terrific. And I'm going to do just another color to show you what the yellow is like. Let's see. I did a whole series of work a couple of years ago where I was using the spills as a beginning place for my work. I'm going to shape this up too. This is diamond light yellow. All you need is one little drop on it. It really goes very, very far.
Yeah.
And start to move that around a little bit. Yeah, interesting. All right, there you go. There you can see the way that the pigment sort of settles on the piece of paper. And if you want the yellow and red to come together, you can. I actually don't want that to happen because I want you to see the clarity of the color here. I'm just gonna sort of suck up a little bit of that. You can also just take a piece of paper towel and bring up some extra water if you feel like you have too much water down there. This is not working as well. Getting bubbles. There we go. So, as you can see, this is really a pretty entrancing way to work. We'll get some fun things happening. Whoops, there we go. Well, there we go. We finally get together. So I'm just going to put that aside and come back to it after it's dry. But I also want to show you that you can do a similar thing on Yupo or Duralar paper. So I just want to stop this first. Which is not paper. So I actually have, this is Duralar, and as you can see, it's translucent, not transparent. It's a plastic, and the surface is matte, so it really does take paint very well. The paint doesn't crawl on it. It really sinks in, and it's a very lovely surface for acrylic. And this is UPO. So UPO is not, it's opaque, you cannot see through it, but they're both plastic. So this is a little bit heavier plastic. People love it for its thinness and its sturdiness. Same thing with the Duralar. So I thought that I would show you also how this kind of crawling use of the high flow in water works on these two surfaces. It's really, really interesting to try them. So let's put a little bit of our water back here. And you'll see it's a very, very different kind of an experience.
There's
Right
snow
down
again?
here.
I just opened up the wall.
There you go. Yeah, it just kind of takes it immediately. And yeah, it's a very, very different kind of an experience here. This is going to take a lot longer to dry. Oh yeah, so you can really see how the pigment moves around in there. And you get some really super interesting shapes as it dries. And if you get a little bubble, you just can poke it. It'll just go away. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there because it might do some interesting things. And when you can see what Duralar does, it's the same thing. But again, it's not going to dry, nearly as fast as the paper does. It's going to really, need a couple of, maybe an hour or two even to dry up. But let's see what this one does. There you go. And the wonderful thing about this stuff is that, you can lay it on anything, of course, after it's dry. And, because you can see through it, you can, even do some kind of collage treatments with them. You can, really do some pretty wonderful, kind of see what that looks like when it's on top, change the colors, kind of mutes everything out. So, yeah, it's really, really interesting stuff. Let's just add a little bit of red to this one so you can see what happens with that. But yeah, it's a different experience. Pretty cool, right? I could watch that all day. So yeah, it's just really fun to come back and see how they settle. By the way, this area here is a different kind of thing. I didn't do that sort of water thing with that. What I'm showing you now is different. So yeah, there you go. I mean, what I do, I invite you to play with the transparencies. You know what we should do is try one right now using fluid paint, because I want to show you that it's going to be different because, the medium is thicker. But what I think is if you mix, your paint in some water first, and you kind of get it wet. Let's use some of the iridescent bright gold. Let's just see what that does. We've got to do my cover here. This is one of the ones that you have. So yeah, it's going to need to be a little bit thinner, but I don't know, let's try it. Let's just see what happens.
Putting in there now.
Okay, so yeah, it sits on the, yeah, it doesn't disperse nearly as well. I do think we need to get it a little bit wetter. So, what you could do is just pour it out onto, a small container, add some water to it and do some interesting things. Just wet it down, stir it up, and then go ahead and see how it, disperses. And yeah, does everybody understand what happened here? I was adding fluid paint, but it's a little heavier and it just doesn't, disperse the way the high flows do. But I was saying it's possible to get it to do that if you just take it into a little tiny container and add some water to it. Not a lot, but just disperse it a bit, and then you can use it. I'll show you what this looked like dry after we see the rest of this video. It disperses out, but the high flow really is better. Oh yeah, you can see it going a little bit here. It's just that it's much heavier, just sort of sits in the bottom there. see if we can get it to move around a little bit. Oh yeah, there it goes. Oh, yeah, it's not quite doing what the high flows do. So yeah, so that's a really fun activity. And the other thing, well, that an activity that will get you some really pretty interesting surfaces and interesting places to start in your work. As I said, I've done this on huge canvases, started with a spill. And of course, I'm using, a lot more water. And I'm also using a little bit of that water tension break. Acrylic flow release. I've forgotten the name of it in the video, but it's acrylic flow release. That helps stops this kind of thing from happening. And I don't care about it on this small surface, but in the canvas, I really did want to have it, really get into this, the fibers of the canvas that I was using. Another fun thing to do is to spray water. I'll just do a little spray over here in the corner of my BFK and put some of this red. Actually, let's try a different color. Let's try some of this. This is indigo high flow. I just want to show you what happens when you have a little area of really kind of beautiful little sort of fractal pattern that happens. Okay, so that that's kind of what we're going to be playing with today in class, but there's more. So I wanted to show you what some of these look like dry. So this is the dried version of the one that I was playing with. This is the BFK, and you can see the way the color disperse. I mean, it's just a really interesting property, to get an experimental kind of an organic look to some aspect of your painting that you wanted to change. But again, these are the paints. When I poured them out, they looked a little opaque because you really couldn't see through them. That's just a function of having so much paint while it was still wet. But they're totally transparent, and really show the transparency here once it's dry. And this is the little area that I had talked about, from the spray. It's kind of a beautiful little fractal. And that's just to show you, the various different things. This is super interesting, I think. This one here on the Yupo. So see how the Yupo dried, and you can see the layer of the layers of the pigments spreading out like this. I don't presume to be able to tell you exactly what happens on a molecular level. I'm sorry, I wouldn't go there. But it has something to do with the electrostatic properties of the pigment. But I love it. It is so cool. I will say that. And this is another one. This is using, fluorescent pink over here, and and a red as well. And just these really interesting, completely unpredictable. You really have no idea what you're going to get. So that's awfully fun. That's awfully fun to play with. So yeah, that's what we love about that particular sort of experimentation. Do you have questions about this so far? Robin, did you have a question?
Yeah. So the thing that you didn't explain, the little red patch that you didn't go over, how did you get that?
Okay, yeah, that was, I didn't talk about because it was part of it was actually part of a jelly plate demonstration. So what I think that is let me just find my little corner to show you that was accidentally picked up some of the ink from a jelly, from my jelly plate that I had put some texture in, but it's really beautiful, isn't it though? It says high flow. That's open paint. This is the open, and I don't even really remember what exactly was happening with it, but I just picked up by accident. So, this is open paint on this surface, and it also, because of, I love Yupo. You work on Yupo, Robin. Did you say that?
Not that much, but a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
my friends have.
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's just does really interesting things 'cause it's not absorbent. It all sits on the top. So that's what you're seeing here. All right, questions about what we see now? Brilla.
Just one question. You mentioned acrylic flow release. What did you use that for?
Yeah, so acrylic flow release, I will, so that's when I wanted to spill a large quantity of paint to get a spill on my own paintings on canvas. And for it to sink into the fibers of the canvas, I needed to add a little bit of acrylic flow release, which is a water tension releaser. In other words, those bubbles that you saw at the beginning where I showed you that sort of sit on top of the paper, if I had added a little bit of acrylic flow release, the whole thing would have gone shoop, flat, directly into the surface of my whatevers. Not UPO, obviously, nothing plastic, but something that has fibers, yes. So fiber like paper or canvas or paper.
So what it does is, what does it do?
It releases the water tension. So, you know, the tension keeps the
Ah.
little bubbles going on. So it, you know what we used to do in the old days? We used to add a little bit of soap, a little bit of detergent to our water to have that happen with the paint in order for the paint to just get sucked up into your canvas. So it's
Okay.
basically surfactant, which is soap. That's what acrylic flow release is. And there is soap in all of acrylic paint because it
So-
helps. You know how if you mix cocoa and if the water, let's see, if the water isn't hot enough, the cocoa powder sits on the surface and it's really hard to get it in there. If you added a little bit of soap, the powder would get, be mixed into the water much more easily. And the same thing with acrylic, with the pigments, mixing them into the water, you need to add something like surfactant, which is soap, for it to get intermixed really well into the water that they make the paints from.
Oh,
So that's what it is. It's basically surfactant, which is a fancy word for soap. You could use detergent. You could use your dish liquid to do the same, just similar thing. But the acrylic flow release just releases that water tension. Terry, yeah.
And this, you wouldn't get that effect if you had gessoed your canvas. You want to have raw canvas or?
Well, that's an interesting question. That's really interesting. Right. You're just not going to get the absorbency. You're going to get much more run off. I won't say it will completely run off.
Yeah, okay.
But
Yep.
much will. So I definitely needed to do this with my unprimed canvas. I will show you some examples after I've made sure we've answered all the questions. I can show you that. But it's just an interesting thing to know. And once you understand how this all works, you can think about how you could use it in your work. Same thing with clear tar gel. When might you use that? It might be a really interesting thing, as a way to sort of activate the surface. Once you've got a flatter approach to your painting, whether it's realistic or not, you can, mix up some paint in the clear tar gel, and maybe do some line work or some other stuff, and then it'll sit as a bead on top of your painting. But this is part of just playing with this stuff enough to say, oh, I know what to do with it. Nobody's going to use all of these at once. It's impossible. And I spent 11 years, playing with all this stuff. And I'm I've only done some of the zillion things that you can do with it because you can't. And also, for one's particular way of working, you might not want to. Like, for example, I never use my open paints to blend because I'm just not doing that kind of painting. I use it for printmaking only. But other people feel very differently about it. They'll kind of use it for the sort of wet on wet look that oil paint would give you before, because you can do that, but you can't do it in pastel. But you can definitely mix wet and wet for an abstract expressionist sort of look to your paints without having them dry so quickly. But you've got to work flatter. So there's all these little tricks of the trade which you begin to realize once you've been working with it for a while. Anything else about this so far? So yeah, I thought we would do a little bit of this would you like to take a second to, a couple of minutes to play with the water and the pigment sort of sitting in the water and having it flow across your surface? Yeah, let's do that. Let's, say maybe take 10, 15 minutes so you to play with this idea, just because it's a long time to sit and listen to me chat. But it is also really, really fun to see what this stuff does. So just, if you have paper, if you have canvas, if you have whatever materials, if you happen to have the Yupo and the Duralar, that's great. But it is really fun to see what happens when you float this high flow into the water and let it crawl around a bit. The fun part is coming back to it later after it's all dry. You really won't see the cool thing it's doing yet until it's dry.
One question, is Denril the same as Duralar, or is it completely different?
What was the name of the first one you said?
Denril, D-E-N-R-I-L.
Oh, I don't know, but there's Duralar is a trade name. So yeah, I bet it's all the same. Like Mylar was another trade name. I think it's all the same.
I got both.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Totally fine. Yeah, so go ahead and do this for a little while. Just play with it and see what you get, on all the different surfaces that you happen to have, and see what happens, because it is a really fun thing to know how to do. And, it can really kind of open your ideas to what is possible with acrylics. It's also one of these processes that really don't look like acrylic. They really, really have more in common with watercolor, I would say, than acrylic paint as we know it. And if you did have a straw, what you can do is, blow gently through the straw too, to make your paint move around. That's what I was thinking about having you do. And also you could do like Judy, which is to take up some of the water in a straw as well. Very clever. Some of you look like you have biology training. But yeah, straws are great. Or you can, or you don't even have to use a straw, but it's just something that might be fun to kind of play with to get it to move around. You can also just pick up a paper and very, very gently move it around, but many different ways to approach it. And then you're really using the transparency of the pigment, as this wonderful, playful property.
Oh, shoot.
Talk about. Oops, sorry, never mind.
I didn't bring a straw, but I'm just blowing.
Yeah, that's
I did,
totally fine.
I did.
Yeah, the straw gives you a little bit more control.
Right, this is
It's
my control.
yeah. But it's just a fun and very and not to be underestimated. When we stop with this, I'll show you some of the work that I did with this process that might be of interest, just to see what you can do with it.
That's cool. Now we'll try to. Blowing is making me a little loud.
Yeah. Well, just be careful. No fainting.
This would be kind of like doing a blind drawing if you put a blindfold on and then start.
Yeah. Well, and it gives you, an interesting way to start a painting, because you're starting with some, kind of amorphous shape that could, inspire, a way to respond to it, all kinds of things. And because it's acrylic, you can do printmaking on top of it. It's just a really wonderful way to think about, a more, experimental approach and a way to start things that you might not have anticipated. If you just give me a second, I'm going to go downstairs and get my matte medium, bring it up here, and then I'll be able to talk a little bit more to show you. So I'll be right back. Okay, how are we doing?
Great.
Looks like everybody's still engaged. We'll give it another 5 more minutes. It is fun. It is really fun.
I actually like the bubbles. They do different things.
Yes, it's very cool. Exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's, you just never, it's kind of endless, the different possibilities. And like I said, the pigments have a lot to do with, how it moves. Like I found that quinacridone magenta is a really amazing pigment. It just moves things all over the place. The ones that are made from like the mineral ones are not that great. They just sort of sit there like rocks, because that's what they are. Like for instance, umber or sienna or some of those colors that, ochre, that come from the earth, the earth pigments just sort of sit there. But the more synthetic ones are just amazing what they do living around.
So Adria, there's definitely a difference. Like if you, I was using the high flow indigo, and that the pigment disperses throughout everything. But if you use a fluid, the pigment kind of sits on top and then slowly.
Yeah, it does. It does different interesting things. Yeah. And again, you really have to wait till it dries to see how it worked. I wanted to say too, I forgot to mention, the one that I added the gold to, what happened was when it dried, that it's got a lovely sort of glittery sheen to it. You cannot see it probably through. Oh yes, you can. If you look at the screen real quickly, you can see the gold. Do you see how it picks up the light? So that's what happens with the gold, but you don't see much change in, as you did before. It just sits there, whereas the other colors do move around, but it gives you a nice sort of kind of a glitzy shine. That's the mica in it.
My favorite is the gold. Just knocks my socks off.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It is.
So
If you like the gold, Judy, you have to try bronze and copper and silver.
yeah, I do. I need absolutely.
Yeah,
They
the
just
bronze
knock
is,
my socks off. Blue with that gold, it's like unbelievable.
yeah, it's really, really gorgeous. Yeah.
It's the indigo with the gold. Oh, I did tar gel. I've done it as much as I can. I really so beautiful.
So Judy, are you using the gold with this water thing?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you bet.
So it's moving for you. That's great. That's great.
Anything I
Yeah.
can get my hands on with this gold, it's just unbelievable. And even the bubbles with it, it's
Oh, that's good.
just great. Well, that's my experience. If is Adria here? Adria, if we put something on this Duralar, if
I
we
did this on Duralar.
Yeah,
Wow.
very, wow. Yeah,
Wow.
that's awesome.
it
Go
And
ahead.
looks
what
great.
I also used a brush a little, and I used paper to blot it off where I didn't like it.
Yes, yeah, you get a great start. I'm sorry, Judy, you wanted to ask a question? Go ahead.
Will
Uh,
would it work a little bit like the skins?
No, because see,
It can't
well,
pull off?
no, right, it won't pull off the Duralar. That's why you're using Duralar. You wouldn't,
Right,
yeah,
I didn't
so,
know if it,
but it can work like the skins in that you can cut out the shape after it's dry and, glue it onto something else, just
yeah.
like the skins. Yeah, yeah, but it's different, but like it, sort of, yeah. That makes any sense. That's very cool, Phyllis. Yeah. I mean, it's all kinds of things you can do with this stuff. It's really, really
Sorry?
fun.
It was fun.
It's very fun to see all the different things you can do with it. Yeah. And as I said, you'll see it when it's drying even more. All right. Do we want to all kind of come back to where we are here? Show each other.
Already
Oh, yeah.
changed it.
Yes. If you can pick up your work and show it to each other, it's really fun to see all the different, very, very
So wet.
sort of organic and free looks to the stuff that, again, you would not expect it to be acrylic because it has beautiful, yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to show you and then put it back.
Yeah, I see it. I don't want
See
to
it
jump all
quickly.
over the place. Yeah, yeah.
I love blowing. That does.
Yeah, me too.
It's just
Can
really
you show us yours, Terry, or is it going to spill
Yeah.
over? Oh, great. Woohoo.
No, I actually just pulled, I don't have any of the Duralar, so I just pulled out one of my old, throwaway mono prints on, I think it's on Reeves. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But anyway, it still flowed on there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
With Duralar, it's sort of amazing.
With the Duralar, you will get, you'll get when it's dry, these, because since nothing gets absorbed, you'll Terry, the difference is you'll see these sort of, areas where it's pooled,
Yeah.
But yeah, Robin, did you have fun there?
Yeah.
Over there in the corner.
Judy, show us yours again.
It's kind of, oh shit. It's all
Judy,
gonna
can you show us yours?
Yeah.
Judith.
I
No?
mine's just so wet it just will
Yeah.
move all over.
Oh, okay. It'll ruin
Yeah,
it.
same with
Sorry.
mine.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this gold goes, but it was more like 1, 2, 3. Woo!
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they're so fun.
Sorry.
So
You know what I noticed also is you can paint the other side of the Duralar.
yes,
Oh, sure.
exactly, and it can really be an interesting
It
thing.
went underneath and it's staying.
Yes, oh yeah, it will stay, it will stick, and it does not come off of your Duralar. Once it's on there, it's not going to come off. That's why when you make a skin, you don't want to use Duralar. You need to use something like that page protector plastic, that HDPE plastic.
Wait a minute, what? You make a skin?
When you make a skin, remember
What do you
from
mean?
last week, we don't want to use something like Duralar
Yeah.
because this acrylic sticks to it. It won't come off. So when you make
Oh.
a skin, you want to make sure to use something like, a page protector plastic, that's special.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just put some gold on.
Oh,
Yeah,
very
it's
cool.
nice.
Oh, neat!
Great.
Phyllis, well done.
Yeah, no, it's super fun.
Yay, gold.
Mine are too wet.
It's okay. Yeah.
I keep
Okay.
putting down lots of water and then dripping it. I've got all these skein, like,
Yeah. Yeah, the
Like-
stainy stuff. It's really, really fun. And I, invite you to try even more different pigments too. So, when you add a pigment that has white in it, it won't work quite as well. But you should try it and see. I haven't done much with white on it, but that's a possibility. The white high flow could be really interesting to see what happens with it.
I love the gold when it gets really diluted with water because it almost is, it's like a shimmery,
Yeah.
I mean, it's lovely.
I just put some black on top of it, seeing what happens with some more water.
I'm kind of curious, does anyone use this in a backlit situation, almost like a Duratrans? I mean, you know, I don't know any painters who, well, I'm sure there are, but I mean, I can imagine doing this in a kind of, in a certain installation situation where you'd backlight
Yeah,
the Duralar with painting and be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a stained glass situation.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
see it that way.
wow, it's getting really
Do you
complicated.
remember the artist I showed you last week, Beatrice Guys? Oh yeah,
The trouble
she
with
has an
gold
installation
is
with
that
paint skins, Terry, on church windows. Actually, she's a sort of a, I don't know if it's
Oh, really?
I'm not a church. Some place commissioned her to do things on windows so that she does get the light shining through them. Yeah, because of the transparency of the acrylic she's used.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
the trouble with the gold is it's so thick to begin
Yeah.
with that it doesn't
Yeah.
move in the water
Yeah.
much.
yeah, but they do make a golden high flow. So you,
Oh,
yeah, they do. They do.
Now we're
Remember,
talking. Oh
Yeah.
my God, Adria.
yeah. You just, again, you're just using
That's
what you have
dangerous.
from your little kits, and so that's what you're. Yeah. So I was trying to, again, I was trying to save you money by having you just use what you have. But yeah, these things all come in different viscosities. So, okay, should we move on? Yeah. All right. Just really quickly, let me show you what I've done, because it'll just gonna give you some more ideas of, whoops, hold on a second, of the possibilities in this, because like I said, I did a series before. You just might be curious to see this. Second. For 2014, here you go. So these were things that I did in India. So I did a whole series of these paint.
wow.
So what I did here was I did, pours and spills on Duralar, let them dry, and then I cut them out and then collaged them onto a piece of BFK, and then I responded to these shapes. So what you're seeing here is this is where the paint spill was, and the rest of this is just painting.
Which is the paint spill?
So this part here, I cut out, like I did a paint spill on the Duralar, but I cut it out when it was dry,
Oh,
and then glued it on, with paint medium, with acrylic medium to a piece of BFK. So here's my paint and then what happened was I responded to this with paint. So it sort of had a flower look to me, I guess, about what I'm seeing here. And let's see, let me show you another one. This one here. So this one is interesting because this,
oh.
remember we talked a little bit about, I just want to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it.
You can see it. It's gorgeous. There's so many different techniques.
Well, yeah, and this is cut out from, like, you remember I sprayed and then put the paint on it.
Yes.
That's what happens here, but I cut it out. This was another one, another paint spill in the middle. But look at this, is this phthalo green. Look how gorgeous that is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and all of this is from a paint, from doing this exact same thing on a piece of Duralar, just as you saw. So at the moment, I don't remember all the different ways I did. But anyway, just to say that this is all from that exact process you're doing right now. This is another one here. But I really did have so much fun. Just make it bigger so you can see.
How big are these?
The paper is like 12 by 14 or something.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that. Yeah. So here is the paint spill, this purple thing, and everything else is painted. So it was really, really fun. And then I also did some really big pieces that was on my website. I'll show you just really quickly. The ones that I did on canvas, just to give you an idea of how that might work. Hold on a second. Down here.
I love how you took something that looks spontaneous and then worked it to your own shape.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was what's so fun about it. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rick, tell me if I've shown you some of this before. I don't remember if we did or not, but
No, they're so much like your sculpture.
well, yeah, exactly. They really did come from that. And the sculptures came from that work. But so let me just see where's one I can show you. Yeah, here, this is interesting because this one here, this area here, oh, I want to get bigger. Shoot, hold on a second. This one here, which I'm not able to get bigger. This area was a paint spill. This is big. This is about 50 by 30 inches, so 50 high, so larger than 4.5 feet or so. But this is a piece that I'd done a paint pour onto BFK. I just loved how it turned out here, so I cut it out and I glued it onto canvas. So this actually was a paint spill, but it's painted in. A lot of these things, I start the canvas with a paint spill, but I might just like the shape of the spill itself, so I paint it in more opaquely. It's complicated. I'm sorry.
So Adria, these are all on canvas that you're just showing us?
Yeah, these are all canvas. Okay. Yeah. But they're all variations on a theme of pouring. This is another little one that came out on BFK that I liked so much that I cut it out and then glued it onto the canvas. So these all have, they're all, done with the paint pours, more or less, in some way or another. Back here, do you see all of this is paint pour? I just hear this lime green and the blue in here. This is all paint pour. And then what happens is on top of it, I'm adding different.
So when you say paint pour, does that mean you're pouring paint, or does it mean you're doing the water and sticking pigment into it?
That's right. The second, Prilla, yeah, where I put paint by the water on the canvas and then mixed high flow and the acrylic flow release together and then poured it onto the canvas.
But you got it to be white. So did you use a paste?
No, this is white paint. Yeah.
White paint. I get it.
Yeah. So because I didn't want you guys to go to any more expense, I said that you could use some of your paste as white, but you also might want to get titanium white pigment, a paint.
Or house paint. You also said house
paint. Or white latex paint or gesso. Any of those can be used instead of white paint.
Now your canvas was all stretched before you did.
Yes, yeah. It was. Yeah, it was.
Oh, what? That's so fun.
These are, these actually don't have the paint pours on them. This is different, but I'm just going, here's one. This is so interesting. And speaking of, to your question earlier, Judy, this was done on aluminum panel, but it looks like watercolor. And it's because I took an aluminum panel and painted it with an absorbent ground, similar to ones we used in class. But of course, you didn't have all of them. There's one, there's one that when you put paint in onto your aluminum, it's very, very flat. It's not like the light molding paste. It's flat, but it still absorbs water. So when you spray it with water after it's been dry, you can then, this is exactly what I've done here with what you're doing right now.
What is the name of the medium that you used?
Absorbent ground.
Excuse me?
Absorbent ground.
That's what it's called?
Yeah, that's what it's called, absorbent ground, yeah.
Put it in the book.
So Adria, I'm just curious, when you're doing all of these in your sculpture, are you reacting to what's there, or do you have a set intention ahead of time?
I'm reacting to what's there.
Okay.
Yeah, I really work very much intuitively. The sculptures are a little different in that I have this vocabulary of shapes that I've gotten from over the years, and so they're different in that way. I haven't done the sort of painterly approach on those that I've done in here. I might do that. I just haven't gotten there yet with it. But this spray stuff is the same thing you're doing. I put the high flow in water in a little spray container, just a little pump spray, and sprayed it onto the surface, which is another thing that you guys can do. That's a whole other, I mean, there's so many, we could go on for days, all these different possibilities, but I just thought it would be interesting for you to see. Here's another one that's, this is on canvas,
Oh
but
my goodness.
this is exactly what you guys are doing right now. I'm, let me see here. How did I do this one? I think this one was just on gessoed canvas, but I did put lots of water down and then dribbled high flow on it and let it dry that way. That's how this started. And then on top of it is opaque paint. And I guess it was sort of the red, white, and blue theme here. Kind of a take on our politics. Yeah. So anyway, kind of anyway. So just to show you that this is not possible. This is another one that this is interesting for you because it is, if you look up in this corner, it is house paint that I poured on, and it's crackled all by itself. So that's what I'm talking about. That's when you have a real buildup of a chalkiness that just cracks, because that's what happens when it's too thick. But I kind of liked it, so I left it as another interesting part of this painting. This is big. This is 72 by 60.
The house paint is the white part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can see it closely.
Sort of.
Yeah, I know. This is, I can bring this up on, make it bigger, but here's a place where I did pour by mixing, this is, oh gosh, it's bronze high flow, I think, in a medium, so it's fairly thick when I poured it out, but that's sort of what allowed me to get this area. I could also have done that with clear tar gel, because it keeps it from self-leveling. So just to show you how you might in the real world use this, here's another one that I've used. This is aluminum again, covered with that absorbent ground, and then mixing my paints into the water as you're doing right now, and allowing them to kind of flow where they would. But once it's dry, see, then I go back in with opaque paint, and very carefully I paint out everything but where the flow was. So that's where you really have fun using opacity versus transparency. All this is dry. All of this is exactly what you guys are doing now. Let it dry and then go back into it with the opaque paint. So I'm playing with this very organic look and then going back in with very hard-edged, flat, opaque paint after the fact. And then this area here where you see the little speckles is blocking off these areas that have already been painted with, I don't know, some kind of paper, and then spraying. So the spray only gets to on certain parts of my painting and not others. Like here's another area that's only sprayed here.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So why would you choose to use aluminum panel if you have to, like, I can't tell by looking at this that it's aluminum panel versus a wood panel versus canvas. So why would you choose to paint on aluminum panel?
That's a really interesting question, Robin. Well, I was interested in other surfaces. I don't really love canvas because I don't get a big thrill about with the surface of it, the threads, so I was interested in flatter, smoother surfaces. And somebody had told me about this aluminum panel. It's, and I just thought I would try some. So I bought it. Oh, good. Oh, here's a way to make it larger. Sorry about that. Does that make any sense at all? Okay, that's why, because I thought it was interesting to try it. And it's a sturdy surface. It's not necessarily lighter than canvas. It's heavy. It's heavy. Yeah,
So
I
would there
suppose.
be a difference between, using an aluminum panel versus like a birch panel once, since you have to put
Anyway, yeah. Not really.
because the paint it sits more on top instead of sinking down.
But that would be true if you primed and
The
prepared your no, not the canvas. Yeah, I don't think you would get as beautiful edges as if you were using canvas. Like there's something about using a hard, flat surface that
Hmm.
enables you to get this that you can't get on canvas. I didn't. You'll see if you could go back and look at the other one that I did, that Spangled was done on canvas. I don't know that you got as precise edges. So I don't know that there's a big difference between using a wood panel or an aluminum panel because I primed them with the absorbent ground, both of them the exact same
Right.
way. But definitely difference from using canvas.
Mhm.
But see, this absorbent ground on something that's very non-absorbent is a pretty interesting thing to play with. Let me stop this and share with you one that, this is what I was trying to find last week, and it turns out it was up here. It was just covered with something else, but let me spotlight myself here so you can see this a bit better. There we go. So this is panel. This is aluminum.
Oh,
Super slippery, right?
yeah.
And you would never be able to get, this is exactly what you guys are doing today. Primed this with my absorbent ground. And the first thing I did to this was I sprayed water, just as you're doing, and then, played with high flow on it. But when I let it dry, then I was able to go back into it with these opaque paints. This, what you're seeing here, is just my little spray container that I'm using, but instead of just full water, I put some high flow paint in it. I think it was just all high flow actually, and then it's just covered all this, covered everything that was painted already, because this was the last part of my painting, but covered it with some sort of probably paper. I forgot what I used, but sprayed it and allowed this, the little speckles to come in. It's doing, of course, everything flat, not up high, because you would say, you obviously see it all just kind of trickle down, but I was doing it flat. And then when I was done spraying, I lifted the mask and let it all dry flat. So that's how I did this.
How
Adrian,
do you attach the mask?
It was just flat on the,
Just to lay it there?
I laid it there. Yeah, it was really flat
Yeah.
paper. Yeah.
Adrian, this is sort of a foolish question, but where do you get those tiny little spray bottles?
Oh, it's not foolish. I mean, I actually think I bought these online, but I think you can go to a drugstore and find them.
Drugstore, yeah, I've got them from the drugstore.
Yeah, I think Walgreens was selling them a while ago, but yeah, you go online though. Yeah. So yeah, so any questions about this so far?
I'm wondering if you put a little bit of soap in that and sprayed it, what would have happened?
In soap and my high flow?
In the sprayer, when you're spraying,
Yeah.
if you put a little soap in, would it have affected the surface?
Oh, interesting. I don't know. You mean because of the water tension?
Yeah, just to see,
Yeah.
I don't know if you got any bubbles. I don't know if you got any of that, but if you did, I'd
Oh,
imagine you could add the soap.
you try it. I don't know that it would have done anything different though, Judy, but you should get, all these things are interesting to try. Yeah. Yeah. It's all, it's all an experiment, really. It's really, it is. But now that you know how all this stuff works a little bit better, that's where this experimentation comes in. You may discover something that's really exciting to you. But I would just to point out that this stuff where you're moving the paint around or, allowing it to flow and pour is actually a really valid use of the paint. Like I've used it in serious art making. So it's not just playful, but it really is a real way to work. Okay, so what we could do now is go back to that one last video I wanted to show you that addresses the transparency. Shall we do that?
Sure.
Let's do that and then see where we are in terms of time after this. So. Let's see what I want to, I'm going to advise this here. Hold on a second. Okay, so now, here. Okay. Transparency versus opacity, but really how to create a color that is very very smooth and transparent, that doesn't show brush strokes in it. So there are a couple of things to know about. So the first thing is that your labels, at least, well, golden, will show you how transparent a color is. And generally speaking, these synthetic colors, and these days actually most of the paints are made from synthetic pigments, but they are transparent naturally. And golden doesn't add white to these colors unless it's actually on the label. But one way for sure that you can tell if it's transparent is you see these little black hatches, and you can see the paint, and this is hand painted right across the label here. So you can see that it's very transparent. And this is a high flow. In other words, it's the thinnest viscosity and the one that you want to pick up. And I'm using this because somebody asked about using acrylic inks. So this is Golden's answer to acrylic ink. In other words, it's a very thin viscosity acrylic paint. So the word ink is really, acrylic isn't ink, acrylic is paint, but it's a way for for the consumer to know, what kind of viscosity you're getting. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just pour a little bit of this out. I was looking for. I love using these lids, these clear lids, because it gives you a place that you can pour out your paint, and it's not so deep like a cup that especially if you don't need a lot, you can actually see what you're doing. And you could also, of course, use palette paper, but this is a really convenient way of doing it. So of course, the most obvious way that you can wet your paints down is to add water. And, certainly you can get a pretty transparent, this is, by the way, reused BFK paper, rather. You're going to be able to get a nice, even paint like this with water. And of course, again, this is very absorbent paper. Right, I have here is a poured area of water with probably, this looks to me like quinacridone gold. I'm not sure, but at any rate, that's another really transparent one. And of course, but with a lot of water, you can't control your paint as well. And the same thing is true with here, but it's a very even look, especially with that wonderful 100% rag paper. So then the other thing that you can do, of course, is to extend your paint and to make a glaze with some sort of a fluid medium. And this is a gloss fluid medium. You may or may not want gloss. This I've had for a while. Let's just see how fluid it actually is. It should be pretty good. Yeah, well, you saw that. It's okay. Yeah, it's getting a little thicker, but it certainly will extend your paint. And that, I just mean that it's getting a little old, so the water is evaporating, and so your paint is going to be thicker. So you still can use it. It's just that if you're looking for something thinner and you expected it to be thinner, that's because it's just getting a little old. You can, of course, add your transparent pigment to this, make more paint, and the paint's going to look different when you use it. It's going to stay more in place. It's not going to I'm gonna say that it will affect the absorbency a bit because it is the plastic that's in it, but let's just see what that's like. So yeah, that's a pretty good, even transparent. Yeah, right, and you can see that it doesn't absorb as easily into the paper. It definitely has more concrete edges here. So another thing that you can add to your paint is something called acrylic glazing liquid, which is very much like this polymer medium gloss that I just used. Let's just see if this is maybe a little bit thinner, but it's just a matter of what you want. You can easily, these are comparable. There's as I said earlier in the class, there are a lot of things that do similar things. Certain things do things that others won't do. So the polymer medium gloss, does something different. This was made, definitely to create glazes, but they both create glazes beautifully. So let's pour a little bit. I would say that the glazing medium does extend the drying time a little more, but not as much as open. So for this out. This is a little bit thicker. Okay, interesting. And we'll again add our paint to the glazing liquid. And of course, the more medium you have, the fainter the application of your color, right? The more transparent it's going to get. That's still pretty good. Like I say, there's a lot of pigment in these paints, and so they're going to really, it's going to take a lot to really get them as more and more transparent. Let's see if we can do this. Let me add a little bit more of the medium over here. Or rather, this is the acrylic glazing liquid. Same stuff, just kind of a different name. And I'm going to now take a little bit of my pigment. See, I don't need much at all. And I'm going to mix it up in here. And let's see if I can get a very faint glaze. And, it does extend the drying time a bit because, you're adding more stuff to this very thin paint. So, although that's pretty dry now.
Bless you.
Okay, so now let's do this. Let's see if we've made even more transparent color.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, and it's lighter, but it's still amazing how much pigment there is. I really thought that I was getting it pretty thinned out, and we can keep going. So that's the story with the glazing, or thinning, getting a really even look of paint without brush strokes. I'm going to stop here because I think we kind of covered this today, but I did bring up some matte medium too. It's going to look exactly the same. They're all white when they're wet, and then they dry. What you're seeing that's white evaporates because what this is light bouncing off of the water. So when the water dries, you're left with this thin skin that's going to be clear and glossy if it's a glossy medium, or translucent if it's got matting agents in it, which is this little, very fine, like calcium carbonate. So this is what it looks like when it's dry. I did do a little demo. I'm going to make this bigger for you so that you can see. Again, this is, just try this on your own to see, but oops. There we go. Believe it or not, this is all the same color. I'm curious that it does seem to have affected the color a little bit. It's kind of interesting that way. I don't know. And this over here is a mixture with, this is what I did here was I used a burnt umber, and it's one of those mineral pigments that looks like a rock under the microscope. It's not synthetic, but you add a little bit of the glaze to it, and you can get it to be more transparent for sure. Really gives you a huge range. And this is a little bit of blue mixed with that same thing. clearly the absorbency of this paper makes a big difference, Prilla. So I think that's what I've sort of concluded.
However, if I'm doing it on top of other stuff I've already done, it won't be absorbent. It'll be,
That's true.
yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
it'll be more like doing it on Yupo. I mean, not totally, but
Yeah. Yep.
so I'd have to start with something pretty thin.
Yep.
I mean, pretty transparent, a lot of medium and less.
A lot of medium in it. Exactly. Exactly. And I think, yeah.
Well, that's helpful. Are these videos ones that we're going to be able to see again?
Absolutely. I'll share them, as an individual, but you're going to get this whole, today, you're going to get the whole recording. So they're in it anyway, but I'll send them to you separate. Mhm.
Thanks.
Terry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. We were, the clear jars, tar gel and the GAC 100 give transparency. And these two things that you just demonstrated also give transparency. And the difference is what?
I know, it's like splitting hairs. The acrylic glazing medium does slow the drying time a little bit. But, you have to ask yourself, is that something that's super important to you? It might be. And in which case, I'll say this, if you haven't bought anything yet, and you're going to go buy some kind of a glossy medium that you can use to extend your paints, then, you might want to just get acrylic glazing medium. It's, that it is glossy, and you know that it's going to slightly slow down the drying time. So why not? Why not get that? But if you don't care and you already have it, you already have one of these already, there's no need to buy more if you don't, because if you've got, for example, if you've already got a glossy medium, if you've already got GAC 100, maybe you don't need to buy anything else. You can use that because it'll do exactly the same thing.
You said something about visibility of brush strokes. Is there any difference here of what will end up as a real smooth surface versus?
Well, as as I said, I've done, on my little demos that I've just finished doing for you for this exercise today on the BFK, that really doesn't change the look of it. None of the ones really changed it. As you can see, this one here, this one is the, I believe this one is the clear glazing medium. Yeah. And so, it sits on the surface a little bit more. But it's so minor, that change, really isn't that visible. Now the one that I did on the board, let me just find that. Oh yeah, here it is. The one that I did on the board, you did see a little bit more of a change on that one. So this one, you can see, the
oh yeah,
but it's not as, this is not as absorbent as that 100%.
Right.
So you just gotta ask yourself, what is it that you really want? What are you looking for? And try to go with that as much as you can. When I first put these down, it didn't look like they were going to be as streaky as they did when they finally dried. So this is the GAC 100. This is the this is the
tar gel.
Yeah, that one sits up much more. That makes sense because it's already sitting up. This is the dried tar gel.
Yeah,
Really made a bead. It's not going anywhere. And then this is water, so there's no glossy surface. This is very glossy now.
right.
Clear tar gel, and this is the GAC 100. So they're, again, it really do have to try it yourself and see what you're into. How much do you care? What is it that you really need?
Probably a water wash on a slicker surface would not work because the water wouldn't hold. You'd need some medium for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another question, I probably have some of these mediums, but they might be 5 or 10 years old. Are they still going to be okay, or do I need new ones?
I would just see how they look, Perlette. Open them up and see if they're still, if you can move them around, and if they're not too thick, then you could use them.
Okay.
It just depends though. Like, Yeah,
I got it. I got it.
yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else? All right. So let's see, what did we want to finish off with? Oh, Judy, did you? All right, somebody was asking me a question. Oh yeah, so I answered your question about the aluminum, Judy, or the wood.
Yes.
So the answer to the aluminum you saw. So aluminum is very slippery, like Prilla was saying. That's certainly something that you. Although I've used paint on that aluminum, and it does stick, Prilla, even without a medium. It does. It doesn't just. It's not like it just runs off. Like if you were to add a lot of water and then pour it on, yeah, it probably would run off. But paint by itself, because it has medium in it, it's going to stick. It's going to be. It kind of liked it. I don't. Let's see. I don't have anything to show you. Oh, well, yeah, I don't have anything even on the back here to show you. But this is what I did on the back to, on the aluminum. By the way, you can use contact cement and just glue a set of stretcher strips to the back of something like this. And then you can just hang it, and it's really sturdy. So that's one, what do you do with something that you don't have anything mounted? You can just do something like that on the back. Yeah, I've just discovered contact cement. It's a little stinky, but wow, that stuff really works. It really sticks. So you put some on the surface that you're trying to stick and on the surface itself, and then let it dry a bit, and then stick it down and wait overnight, and it really makes a very, very, very good bond. But for wood, depends on if you want your wood grain to show. So there's an artist, some of you know Rose Olson's work. She's a Boston artist, and do people know her work?
No.
She goes at the Kingston Gallery, and she actually uses this interference paint. I wonder if it would be worth it. You know what? Let me bring up her website, because this is applicable to what we're talking about. Let me see if I can quickly find her website. If I can, it's okay. We'll just keep talking. But she is somebody who really does use the look of her surface, the birch plywood, without any gesso on it at all. So let me just see if I can bring that up. Oh, good. Great. So yes, this is really interesting to show you. So this is a birch plywood, right? If she put gesso on her birch plywood, she would lose the beauty of the grain. So acrylic on maple veneer. All right, well, birch plywood, maple, whatever, but still, it doesn't have any gesso on it. She is using the interference paints that I have mentioned in class. We haven't talked about it because you guys don't really have a sample to use. But what it is, it's paint that does not have any pigment in it. It's all done with mica coated with titanium dioxide in different, man, I don't want to even get into the science behind it, but it interferes with the light. So you get this ability. Do you see how the color changes on it all by itself? There's no pigment on here.
Are you showing this to us?
Oh, I'm not showing, I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hold on. So sorry. Hold on, my everybody.
And her name is Rose Olson?
Olson, yeah.
Olson.
Yeah. Okay. Let me do this again. It's so funny. I'm sorry. Okay, what is she talking about here? Okay, here we go. All right, there we go. So here we go. Do you see this? This is maple veneer. It's not primed, because if she put gesso on it, you would not see these beautiful striations in the color, right?
Color. So what's the color?
It is all done with this interference paint.
So there is
No pigment. There is no pigment on here. It's all done with this special paint that I said has no pigment, but it does have it has mica in it that's been coated with titanium dioxide. This is technology that I, wouldn't really, it's all the same. So there's no pigment. And as you walk by these things, they change color.
I didn't realize I have control over. I just changed. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
incredible, right? So
Yeah.
that's an instance where the artist does not want to cover the beautiful grain.
Yeah.
So she could use JC 100 on it, and still, you know, if you wanted to, well, like these probably have different bars of color on it. So she may want I don't know, I can't see these up close, but
Definitely, she has color there.
it does. I wonder if this has got more of her. Let's just see if we can go to her. No, it's not going to take you to her website. Let's just see if there's more here. No. All right. Oh shoot. All right, I don't want to do that. Never mind. You can go to her website. Let's just say that. Okay, go to her website. You'll see. But suffice it to say that this is pretty cool. That, you know, yes, you can allow the natural look of the surface to show. Or you can prime it or put something on it that will change that surface. You can put gesso on it, but it's all good, Judy. Basically, you can paint on all these things by just knowing what you want from it. So if you want to use your veneer to show the beautiful wood grain, you can do it. You just would prime it with something that is clear, like a matte medium or a GAC 100. Anybody else? Question?
Given us an awful lot to think about.
I know, it's a lot. Oh, maybe we should just stop here. I'm a little like dizzy too, like So for next week. Oh, Robin, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say those sheets that you gave us,
Oh yeah,
that is like the best reference material.
it is really good. Yeah, hold on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Even on the website, there's no place that does that as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Great. So for next week, be thinking what you want to do in class. Well, now that Phyllis has already gone, I don't want to cover varnishes, but next week we'll get into varnishes and the isolation coats and all that other stuff. And anything else you want to do, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody.
Well, hi, Adria. Take good
Thank
care.
you.
So much.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. See you next time.